What it's like divorcing a narcissist. I was married for a very long time. Our kids are grown, so there was no custody, no children involved, nothing like that. So I assumed this would be a very simple, straightforward process. Boy, was I wrong. I filed in October. This was after I had to get a protection order because once I moved out, he started harassing me about me taking the dogs with me because that's all he had to hang over my head. So he was harassing me, stalking me. It was ridiculous. So I ended up getting a protection order. That was in October, and I filed in October. So then it's back and forth with the lawyers. This is what we agreed to, blah, blah. So finally it comes down to we're going to do mediation. So mediation was set for March and back up. In the meantime, in December, we had a status conference because the judge has the option to have a status conference to see where things are at when they're taking longer than they should. So that was in December. Mediation was set for March, middle of March. So middle of March rolls around and my ex turned in no disclosures at all. So my lawyer calls and he says, look, we're going to have to postpone this because he's turned nothing in. So we set another mediation for April. Um, my lawyer asked that we have a market value appraisal done on the house. And since I'm the one that left, I really couldn't do that because if I sent someone to the house, he just wouldn't let him in. So I left it up to him to have the appraisal done. And in the end, no appraisal got done. No market value appraisal got done. So in mediation, um, we came to an agreement based on my records, which saved my ass. Before I left, I downloaded all the statements for all the bank accounts, insurance, investments, everything, all the documents that I might possibly need. I created a new Google account and I uploaded all those documents to my Google Drive under that account. So he had no access to it and there was no paper trail. He couldn't find my stash of papers and steal it or whatever. But I ended up going through his computer and my computer and finding, payments to a metal company where he was buying gold and silver and he had been for months. I could only go back a year and a half. So I downloaded all those statements and they became part of the asset list, which saved my ass because it was a lot more money than I would have ever thought. So that is what I would tell people is make sure before you leave, have a stash of cash. This has now cost me two retainers, $5,000 each. And I'm looking to have to pay another retainer because now I owe my lawyer again because all that's been used up and nothing's been done yet. Nothing's signed. I haven't had any payments. I haven't gotten a dime. So I've been funding this by myself with help of my dad. So I would say first, stash as much cash as you can stash. If you think you're going to leave and you have, a year, stash all the cash you can before you leave. Download all the bank statements, download all the insurance policies, everything you can get your hands on. You're going to need it because you're going to need to turn it in. And the thing is even if it's not that much money, you're going to need that because you can't count on them to turn anything in because my ex still hasn't turned anything in. I had to provide 36 months of statements for every account that we had. We had several, nothing in them really, but I had to provide them all. Everything that was an active account, credit cards, especially credit card statements, all of it. So all those documents got uploaded to my Google Drive, as well as any evidence that I had of his wrongdoings or whatever in case I needed it. I had that too. So I had screenshots of his text messages with people he shouldn't be texting. I had emails that he was sending emails to his ex-girlfriends. I mean, for years, I had that. I had all the threatening messages that he sent me, all the text messages he sent me, um, all of it. And I downloaded all of that and uploaded it to my Google Drive. So I had it there so that if they need it, it's there. Because once you leave, it's really hard to get anything out of them. So I would say when you're preparing, that's something that's really, really helpful. And what I did, I work for a school and I've had to learn Google Sheets. And so I've done a lot with Google Sheets at work, which saved my butt because I made a spreadsheet. I listed every asset. I Googled and looked up all the values on everything. Um, and for the things like the gold and silver that he'd been buying, I had the statements. And so I took those PDFs, threw them in my Google Drive, shared them, copied the link, and made them accessible to anybody that had the link. So I took those links and I pasted them into the Google Sheet. So each asset line had its own link to the statement proving that what I was saying was true on how much he spent. So then, because, some of the stuff he's had for, I think I could only go back a year or maybe two. So the older stuff, especially the gold, I mean, he had skyrocketed since he bought it. So then I went back to the website where he bought this stuff from and I got the new values on everything. And so every line item had the purchase price as well as the current price and what it was worth currently. So that became the asset list that we used to split everything because he turned nothing in. And the values that he put on things was ridiculous. I mean, he was a big buyer of survival food. And so he put on there that he had $200 worth of survival food. Well, just the receipts that I had was $7,500. So it helped me a lot to have the proof. Like he's saying it's worth this, I'm saying it's worth this, but I have the receipts and he doesn't. So keep that in mind. Every piece of evidence that you're going to use, anybody that you might call as a witness, any statements that you might use, bank statements, life insurance policies, car insurances, um, investment statements, retirement statements, 401ks, Percy, whatever. Any statements that you have. You're going to need taxes. So I think they ended up asking me for 7 years worth of tax returns, which luckily I do my taxes online. So I had those PDFs and I just uploaded those. So you'll need all that to provide because you can't depend on them to provide anything. So just keep that in mind. And my other big point is count on it costing a whole lot more than you think. So like I said, 2 retainers in. I'm going to have to pay a third retainer now, which I had put a lot of stuff on credit cards because when I moved out, I didn't take anything. So I furnished my house thinking, oh, well, this will be settled pretty quick and I'll just pay my credit cards off. No. So now I'm like swamped with bills because, I expected this to be much more simple than it ended up being. So learn from my mistakes, you know, take it as it resonates. But just keep in mind that you need to put yourself in as good of a place as you can because you can't count on it being settled anytime soon. And once it is settled, I'm going to get enough. All my debt's going to be paid off, all of it. But I would have done much better had I started stashing money ahead of time before I left. So just take that little tidbit of information, put it in your back pocket. Um, any types of assets that you can think of, just add it all up. Have a spreadsheet, start putting on there, each item that you have because it's going to save you in the end because when you split assets, you split assets. So it's like it's worth this, you get half of that. the more you have on there, the better. I was to the end that at the end, I was just so fed up. I didn't even care. I was just like, just leave them everything. But I did at least have my asset sheet that proved how much money, and there was a lot of stuff on that I didn't put on there because I didn't know the values. There was a whole garage full of tools. I had no idea what that was worth. So I guessed on that. But the more prepared you can be, the better. The more stuff you can provide to your lawyer, the better. It will totally pay for itself in the end. So I just wanted to say that, put that out there, just let you know that, they're going to make this as miserable as possible, even if it's just like acting like a 3-year-old and not turning anything in and, stomping your feet and whining. Um, my other point was going to be that when I left, I took my dogs with me because I knew he would use them against me. And he did. He tried. He even went to the cops and tried to file a civil order to get them taken away. And he threatened to kill them on multiple occasions just because they barked too much. I ended up spending $7,000 on a fence to keep them so that they couldn't see everything, so they wouldn't bark at everything, but it made no difference. But he never wanted those dogs. They were always mine. So, you know, just keep in mind that whatever they can throw over your head or use against you, they totally will. So be prepared. And any evidence you have of any wrongdoings that they've done, document it. The more documentation you have, the better off you're going to be. So that was my point. Hope it helps. Have a great day.